Hi, this is Ed Troxel. In this tutorial, we're going to look at a form request that wanted to output the regions that are in the project out into a text file with the region start and the region end in the text file. So first we'll look at the script we'll come up with, then he had a couple of requests for changes that we'll look at. And so let's start with the initial script that we started with and see how that works. Here's the initial script that we started with. In this case, we wanted to save it to a file, so I wanted to get a new file name to save it under. So we created a save file dialog, and then for the save file dialog, which I called SVD, the initial directory is just set to D:. You can change that to whatever folder you want it to be. And then I created a filter that was for text files or for all files. That way you could give it any extension you wanted, but it's going to default to a text file. And then the filter index equals 1, the restore directory equals true, and then we wanted to show the dialog, and if they typed in a name and clicked on OK, then we're going to output the file. So to do that, we are using StreamWriter. fs equals new StreamWriter, and then the file name is svd.filename. So that's the file name that was entered from this save file dialog. Then for each, remember regions, the system drawing also has a region. So I needed to specify for each script portal.vegas.region, which I just named region, in myvegas.project.regions. Then I wanted to get the start value. Now he wanted the start value in seconds. Now remember, these values are in milliseconds because they can be several. There's 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second or however many, depending on what you've got your timeline set to. So what I did was I wanted to convert this to an integer just to get rid of the partial seconds. So I took math.round because I wanted to round it to the nearest second. And then I took region.position.2 milliseconds and then divided that by 1,000 to get the number of actual seconds. So we converted from milliseconds to seconds, then we rounded it and I converted that to an integer, so I made sure I did not have any partial seconds. Then we did the same thing with the end. Converted it to an integer, did a math.round, only this time I used region.end.2 milliseconds. So the starting place is region.position, the ending place is region.end. And then to output that line, I did an fs.writeLine, and then I put an open bracket, and then a start, and then a space between them, and then the end, converting both of those to strings, and then a close bracket. And so that would let me write a single line out to the text file. So let's see how this works. So here I have a timeline with 5 sets of regions on the timeline, and we run the script, and it's going to ask me, notice we're on drive D, and I'm just going to say test regions, and we'll save that. Now when I go to drive D and open up test regions, notice we have the first one starting at 7 seconds, ending at 10 seconds, and each region has its own bracket. Well, the next thing you wanted to know is if the starting and the end could be on separate lines. And so we said, sure, that can happen. And so we changed the code so that each one could be on separate lines. So let's make those changes now. Basically what we want to do is we're going to take this line right here, copy it, and then let's paste it right here. And then the first one we're going to keep the start and get rid of the end. And the second one we're going to get rid of the start and keep the end. Now he also wanted to get rid of the spaces in the brackets. So let's go ahead and delete those spaces. So those 2 spaces are now gone. Get rid of these 2 spaces, and we'll run it again and see what we get this time. So we'll just give it the same name again, test regions. Now we'll open up test regions. And now each one is on its own separate line. So now the 7 and 10 are on 2 separate lines, and here's our second region, third region, fourth region, and fifth region. Well, then his next request is, well, what if I don't want to give it a file name every time? What if I want it to always be a specific file? So we'll just name it test region again, and we'll see how that could work. So here, instead of doing all of this, I'm going to set my file name, which is a string, equal to, now there are a couple different ways you could do this. You can either do the d:// like I had before, and then we could put in test region.txt. Or if you don't want to worry about putting the // because this / decodes down to a single slash when the string is decoded, if you wanted to put the single slash, then you can put an @ in front of it, and that will say use this string as I typed it, not having to decode this slash into the next character. Then we're going to get rid of this if statement because we're not going to show any dialogue, and so we'll get rid of the closing bracket as well. And then we're going to change this to the name of our new variable here, which is file name. So those are the only changes. Now to make it prettier, then I like to go through and do something like this. Choose Edit, Advanced, Format Selection, and now all of my spacing is back to correct. These have scooted over, all of these have scooted over to match, and so my spacing looks much better now. So now let's see how this one runs. Let's change it to test region 2 so that we can make sure that we got a good correct file. Notice this time it did not ask for a file name. Now if I go look, I do have a test region 2, and it looks exactly the same as it did before. So here we wrote a script that would ask for a file name, then output the regions to the file. Then he wanted the regions to be in a different format, so we made that one quick little change to get it in a different format. And then he wanted to have it at just a specific file name. And so we were able to make another quick little change to the script, so you can see how we took the original script and was able to modify it to get exactly what he wanted in the end. And so you can take any of these scripts that I have tutorials on and modify them to suit your specific needs. And so this shows how some of those modifications can be done. So I hope you find this tutorial useful. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next tutorial. Please sign up at www.JETDV.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.